Okay, so take a look around you right now. Your phone, the shirt you're wearing, maybe the coffee you're drinking. Chances are almost all of it spent some time on a giant ship crossing the ocean. It's this massive, almost invisible industry that really our entire global economy is built on. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see exactly how it all works. So let's just start with a question. Think about this. Every single year, more than 100 million shipping containers are moving around the globe. 100 million. The question is, who do you think actually controls like 80% of that entire system? Well, the answer is kind of shocking. It's not hundreds of companies. It's not even dozens. It's a tiny handful of absolute giants. I mean, the data shows that the top 10 shipping carriers control more than 80% of the world's container capacity. So how in the world did they get so powerful? The secret, it turns out, isn't about competing with each other. It's about teaming up. And that's where we get into these things called strategic alliances. This is the concept that completely changed the game, and it's where all that power really gets concentrated. So, what is a shipping alliance? Well, it's basically a formal deal between companies that are supposed to be rivals. The easiest way to think about it is like airline alliances, like Star Alliance or Oneworld. It's the same idea, but for the ocean. Instead of fighting tooth and nail on every single trade route, they decide to work together to, well, dominate them. And we're not talking about some casual handshake deal here. This is deep stuff. They literally share space on each other's ships. That's called slot sharing. They coordinate their sailing schedules so they can offer more frequent trips. They even share gigantic port terminals to slash their costs. It's a really deep partnership, and it's all built for two things: maximum efficiency and total market control. Okay, but this whole setup creates a really interesting situation, right? It's a double-edged sword. For the companies themselves, the benefits are obvious. We're talking lower costs, massive service networks, way more power. But for the rest of us, for the global market, it starts to look a lot like a monopoly. When you have just three big alliances controlling pretty much all the main trade routes, they can basically set the prices. And the danger here isn't just theoretical. Remember the Hanjin shipping bankruptcy back in 2016? That was a perfect example. One partner in an alliance went down, and it sent shockwaves through the entire system, leaving cargo stranded all over the world. So, with all this power and shared risk, these alliances created the perfect storm for the next big thing: a flat-out race to build the biggest ships the world has ever seen. I mean, just look at how insane this growth is. Back in the 60s, a big ship might carry, say, 750 containers, or TEUs as they call them. That just stands for a standard 20-foot container. By the 80s, that number jumped to around 4,000. But then, look at the last decade. It just exploded. We went from thinking 18,000 container ships were revolutionary to today, where we have these absolute monsters that can carry over 24,000 containers on a single trip. It's just wild. So why? Why go this big? It really just boils down to a super simple economic idea: economies of scale. Think about it. It's way cheaper to move 24,000 containers on one giant ship than it is to move them on, say, 6 smaller ships. You've got one engine, one crew, one single voyage. At the end of the day, it's all about getting the cost for each individual container as low as humanly possible. And the jump in efficiency is just staggering. You have a modern ship carrying 6 times the cargo of a ship from the 80s. But, get this, the crew size has only gone up by a few people. That's just incredible. It's all thanks to amazing engineering and automation. But, and this is a big but, this incredible size created a brand new, massive problem that spread way beyond the ships themselves. Because every single one of these megaships has to dock somewhere, and that has forced ports all around the world into this frantic, desperate race just to keep up. The logic is painfully simple, but the consequences are just enormous. Because the bigger the ship, the deeper the water it needs. A ship carrying 24,000 containers might need water that's 17, even 18 meters deep. And guess what? Most ports on the planet were just not built for that. Not even close. And that means ports have to go through these eye-wateringly expensive upgrades. We're talking about dredging channels to make them deeper, buying brand new cranes that are tall enough and long enough to reach across these super wide ships, and then completely expanding the area on land to deal with the flood of cargo that's about to hit them. You really can't overstate how huge of a challenge this is. Okay, just stop and think about this for a second. There's a rule of thumb in the industry. For every single container on the ship, a port needs yard space for 3 containers.
You've got one coming off, one going on, and one being shuffled around. So when one of these 20,000 TEU ships pulls up, it creates this logistical tidal wave. The port suddenly needs to manage space for 60,000 containers. 60,000. Not to mention coordinating thousands and thousands of truck trips.
So that's the puzzle, right? How on earth do you manage that kind of insane volume without the whole supply chain just seizing up? The answer, as you might guess, is technology. And more, it means taking people out of the direct hands-on jobs. This is the one big question that every major port in the world is trying to answer. The sheer number of containers coming off a single ship is enough to create total chaos. The only way to deal with it is with incredible speed, pinpoint precision, and automation. And we've seen this really quick evolution happen. It used to be a guy sitting in the cab of a crane, physically moving one box at a time. Then we got semi-automation, with smarter cranes to speed up the process. But the future, and honestly the present in many places, is the fully automated terminal. We're talking unmanned cranes and vehicles being operated remotely by people in an office, kind of like a giant high-stakes video game, all running 24/7 with perfect robotic precision. At the end of the day, the goal is super simple. A ship isn't making money when it's sitting still. Every single minute it's tied up in port, it's losing money. So this whole high-tech dance with all these automated machines, it's all about one thing: getting those giants unloaded, reloaded, and back out to sea as fast as robotically possible. And that really brings us to the big final question, doesn't it? This relentless push for bigger ships and more automation has created a system that is, without a doubt, incredibly efficient. But by putting so much of our stuff on so few ships, controlled by so few alliances, all passing through just a handful of these megaports, have we actually made our entire global supply chain more fragile, more vulnerable to one single point of failure than ever before? That's definitely something to think about.